Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts One Piece RORONOA ZORO, the Raid on Onigashima version. And Luffy turned out to be a pretty solid release, but not exactly as impressive as he could have been, and a lot of people had some problems that I didn't experience, so that's really unfortunate. The Bleach figure recently actually wasn't that great of a figure either, had some problems, despite recent Naruto releases being fantastic and Dragon Ball being the usual hit or miss. So we're in some kind of weird nebulous place where we don't know if we're going to get a good figure from Bandai or not. This one, I am happy to say, and also sad to say, it's somewhere in the middle. So let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. Alrighty, before we look at the figure, let's look at my package. I do think the One Piece Figuarts packaging is really nice. I love the map in the background. They have some nice artwork to give you some color, or not artwork, photos. I like that. It's pretty good. You get the shape of Luffy's hat, and kind of his head, I guess, if you wanted to really stretch it. Good packaging, good look overall. Very pleased with that. Okay, so let's talk about this figure. He stands just about 16 centimeters, give or take. And that's gonna make him very close to 6¼ inches. Here he is up against a Marvel Legends Darwin. They are close, I would say, to 1/12 scale, especially since Hasbro is making bigger than 1/12 scale figures. So if you wanted to fudge these guys into bunches of other collections, you definitely could do it. Okay, question of the day. 2 questions. All right, first question is, how do you guys feel about this first batch of One Piece figures being these specific versions of the characters, rather than more traditional, like Player 1 versions? If you're a video game player, you know what I mean. Like the standard black pants and white shirt, or his robe, or whatever version that is more traditional than this. How do you guys feel about that? For me, I'm okay with it because they look good, but I do want my classic pre-time skip looks for my characters that I like a whole bunch. Okay, and then second question of the day. I'm gonna be building my collection room. I bought a house with an unfinished basement. I am finishing the basement to be my collection room, work room, that whole thing. Would you guys like to see that in progress, or just once it's done? Okay, all right, let's get into the figure. Like I said, not the best thing in the world. It's gonna look okay on the shelf. There's not a whole lot going on. I do think the proportioning is pretty nice, looks good. Not a glossy finish, kind of a satin finish, other than the boots, which have a little bit more shine to them, so that looks nice. The details are okay. These, whatever you want to call these, I guess. I don't know what you would even call those, ties for his cloak or robe. Those look good down here. This one up here is really janky, but the rest is okay. The scar looks pretty good inside there. I think the face looks nice. Coloring on the hair is super neon. Not sure it should be quite as neon as that, but it is very, very bright. Headband, I don't think it doesn't quite match. Not light enough on the arm compared to the one that goes on his head, but it's okay. And then we have a little bit of shading on the red here. That brings him to life a little bit, but that's the only shading. Then we have his swords, which are fantastic. We'll see those up close in the accessory section. But it's not bad looking. It looks good. I'll take it. It's nothing special, but it definitely looks good enough. So I'm happy to have that on my shelf based on the aesthetic, so I'll give it an overall rating of 8 out of 10. Pretty solid. Now, as far as accessories go, you do get the head with the hair, and then you get the head with the bandana. All right, so you get the alternate bicep piece to remove the bandana from his arm, so you get that. And then as far as faces go, you get the stern face that comes on him in the package. You get one where he's smiling. I think that's a great depiction of the character. It looks just like him. Then you get 2 different yelling heads, one where he's angry and one where he's like scared or frustrated or whatever. And then you get a Luffy head with the sweat dripping down his forehead also, and that looks really good. We're doing the Build-A-Figure thing. Again, it's kind of strange, but whatever. For hands, he gets the 2 fist hands that come on him in the package. Then you get 2 gripping hands and 2 open hands. I think that's probably enough. And then lastly, you get his swords. And so the sword's in the scabbard, the handles come off so it looks like he's drawn them, so that's good. But then the swords themselves are just covered with detail, whether it's the sculpted handles, the paint on the handles, or the paint on the blades. Enma especially looks really good with that blue hamon. Couldn't think of the word for a second. That looks really nice. And then the detail is just, it's great on all of them. Really, really good. I can never remember what the other sword is called. Anyway, swords are really nice. Great accessories. I think like a swoosh effect would have been cool or something like that, but he's still got a good spread, so I'll go 8 out of 10. It's fine. One of the reasons it's not getting a higher rating is that the interchangeability of this bicep piece is a nightmare. It pops off well enough, but getting the arm to reconnect to the body is a total problem, and that's if you're lucky enough to not have the whole arm pop off as opposed to just the bicep. Terrible situation with these shoulders, which we're going to get to in just a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. As I mentioned, this figure has flaws. One of them is that the head comes off really, really easily. As you're handling the figure, it's gonna fall off. That's unfortunate. It is on a double ball peg though, so you can move it around pretty darn well. I like that. They could have done a little bit better because you see how far that ball is seated in the neck? You don't have as much range as you should have. The ball should be bigger and it should be higher up at the end of the neck and you'll get better range out of that. But it's still decent. They did do a good job with that head. I think that's nice. Alright, for the neck, doesn't have a ton of range, but the neck is on a ball peg also. It helps. It's not great, but it helps in posing, so that's fine. Could be better, but it's okay. Plastics don't match exactly from the neck to the chest, but I don't think you're going to notice that once it's posed. Okay, for the shoulders, we have a really crappy type of butterfly joint that only has very limited range going up and down. And I took it apart and I couldn't get it to move side to side, front to back in any other way. It's just this right here. It's really bad. And then the shoulders, they did the thing where it's got a big cap as the arm and then the little tiny ball hinge inside, which makes it super annoying to pose, and it doesn't look good when it's posed. It only looks okay when it's out like this, but even then, you still get a big gap. This should have been a traditional ball hinge, a big old ball hinge like they normally do on their figures, and it would have been so much better because it doesn't even have extra range and it pops off very easily. It does connect, even though this is a little ball hinge inside here with a ball peg onto that piece, but there's no room, there's no range for it to move. That's just the butterfly going up and down. The little ball peg does virtually nothing. You do get a bicep swivel here, but it tends to pop off on this side. There it goes. It doesn't stay on for crap. There's not enough retention, and I can't get it to even click properly when it's all put together. If you take this off, it'll click in just fine, but this is, it's too much meat. There's too much meat for the tab to work. Double jointed elbow does work well enough, but not great. It's just a little bit better than 90 degrees. Wrists have a ball hinge, so that's fine. Now here's something that really bothers me. They've been doing this with the Dragon Ball figures. There we go, that arm's fallen off again. They've been doing this with the new Dragon Ball figures, and it's not working for them either. But instead of having a seam in his clothing here, this is all one soft-ish piece. It's soft here and it wraps up and around the neck. And then this is actually the hard plastic. This is the soft piece up here. And then the soft piece down here. It's like a, they call it a bib for when you're wearing a tux and you don't have a vest that fits. It goes around his neck and then around his waist. So this part that has the articulation up here, then you can see the cut down here by the scar. It doesn't have anywhere to go. There's no range in the torso at all. It's basically worthless. You can stretch it out a little bit and that's it. That's only if he's leaning back. It's a really terrible design. Really, really unpleasant to handle this figure because you can't get it to do what you want it to do and there's no reason for it. So this whole torso is connected with a single ball peg down here and that gives you a little bit of range, but not much. Let me zoom out a little bit. It gives you a little bit of range. Like, it's not bad, but not a lot of range. And it only goes to that side. It doesn't go to this side. Really, really unfortunate the way they did this. This cannot rotate, so that's okay. But since it's squared off at the top, it looks weird. It's just, it feels like they didn't quite finish the design on this guy. It's very strange. Then the bottom part of his robe doesn't afford much range at all. It's actually two separate pieces. This part here, it wraps around like a taco, and then this part here like another taco that's smaller that's going in the opposite direction. So you would think that that would give you enough range, but when it's all connected, they don't have any flex. If you pop his torso in half, and then these pieces move freely as probably they were intended, but as it's all connected, they don't do anything but flex right here. And since there's so much overlap, his hips, you don't get any range. They're good hips underneath there, but you can't do anything with them. Forward and back, very limited also. He can basically do walking poses or standing poses. Very, very limited for no real reason. And his knee is obviously up in there, but you can't bend it because this robe is too thick. What the heck? What the heck? The ankles get a swivel at the top of the boot, so that's kind of a nice touch. And then get this. I told you this, guys. It's not great. Let me zoom in, not zoom out. For the ankles, when you bend, take the foot back and try to go over, like try to stretch the heel over like you would normally do on a joint to try to get it to have better range. Which one was it? I can't see it in camera now. Anyway, I did that, and as I did that, I could see white stress marks showing up on the plastic. I think you can see it, right? Little tiny white stress marks. There you go. You see them? Right at the top of the foot. So you can't, do not try to stretch this. Try to flex that over the heel. You just don't, or over the ankle. You just don't get the range. You're gonna break the plastic if you keep trying it. And then going forward, very limited range also. So no reason to have that limited range. That sucks. Toe hinge, not a good one. There's a little nubbin sticking out right here. Big gap right here. But can we focus on the correct foot, please? Just not a good toe hinge. Like, why? It's not loose, but it's not a good one. And then the ankle rocker is old school style ankle rocker, which I'm okay. Oops. Which I'm okay with. You get really good range, but it's definitely not the best looking thing in the world because I didn't really sculpt it for it. It's just okay. So, very disappointing. The articulation on this guy is rough. He's going to be standing in a hero pose, and that's about it. No, don't even get me started on these. I forgot about these. Let me rate the articulation before I forget. 4 out of 10. Hard to pose. Things fall apart. It's not good. Now, these guys. Not only is it a nightmare once you pop all the handles off, to get this in here, you have to feed it through a certain way. The little pamphlet tells you how to do it, but it still doesn't work. They just don't fit properly in the sash. Oh man, this is such a bad figure for what it should have been. They have a tab here, you can see it right there. So that's supposed to tab in on the red here, and then there's a white tab on this one that tabs in there. And none of them actually tab in for anything. Like, it's just really, really bad. And I even took it apart. I took the figure apart to see if I could get it to work, and no. Nothing tabs in properly. Nothing fits properly. I mean, this one out here works okay, but this one in here definitely cannot tab in. Took the whole red thing off and tried to do it, and it can't do it. So the figure is very shoddy. It'll look good on a shelf if you don't want to pose it, but if you want to pose this thing, it's not the figure for you. It is just passable because it looks good and comes with good accessories, but the articulation is atrocious. The design elements are not good for the shoulders, for the waist, for the abdomen, for the robe, for the swords. It's just a very poorly conceived figure, poorly executed as well. So, very disappointing in my book, but it does look good. So as a ZORO fan, I'm like, well, it's going to stand on the shelf well enough in a semi-dynamic hero pose, but that's it. If you were going to pose it a lot, you will be disappointed. I'm going to give this guy an overall rating, despite it looking okay and having decent accessories. It's only going to get a 6 out of 10. That articulation is really rough. These not pegging in, this falling off, not a good experience. The head falls off, the torso does pop off fairly easily. It's a pretty rough experience from Tamashii Nations. So there it is, unfortunately, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.